Parshas Vayakhel Tovshin Ayin Tes. And this year, for the first time in a couple of years, we have this one parsha alone. We're not laning Vayakhel Pekudei Chazak together. This week is just Parshas Vayakhel. In addition to that, it's Shabbos Parshas Shekalim. And once we hit the Arba Parshiyos, Pesach is right around the corner. Purim for sure. 3 weeks from today is already Purim. Pesach is coming just a couple of weeks later. So now we get into that time of the year. In the beginning of this week's Parsha, Vayakhel Moshe es kol adas b'nei Yisrael. The Moshe Rabbeinu gathered all of Klal Yisrael. Vayomer aleihem, Moshe Rabbeinu said to them, Ele hadvorim asher tzivo Hashem la'asois oisam. These are the things that Hashem has commanded you to do. La'asois oisam. And then the Torah continues, what are these things that we command you? The Torah continues, Sheishes yomim te'aseh melacha, uvayoyim hashvi'i, on the 7th day of the week, yihiyeh lochem kodesh, Shabbat Shabbosoin Lashem. That's the beginning of this week's parasha. And the Yalkut Shimoni brings from Rabbi Seinu Bale Agoda something very interesting. And he says that this is the only time in the Torah that we find this lashon of Vayakhel, that everybody had to get together. So obviously that alone requires explanation. And so too, we see that the Pasuk says over here, Asher tzivo Hashem la'asois oisam. That Vayakhel Moshe es kol adas b'nei Yisrael. Moshe Rabbeinu got everybody together, and this is what he said, Ela advorim asher tzivo Hashem la'asois oisam, which would mean that we're about to say a mitzvah's aseh, something that you need to proactively go ahead and do. And then if you take a look, the pasuk goes right ahead and says what you're not allowed to do on Shabbos. So first the pasuk starts off, Ela hadvarim la'asois oisam, like we're about to tell you something that you must do. And right away the Torah continues and tells you what you cannot do on Shabbos. Nothing proactive. We also know that Rashi tells us on this pasuk that this pasuk of Vayakhel was said the day after Yom Kippurim. It was said right after Yom Kippur when Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountain. And we know that Moshe Rabbeinu had just gone up, and Moshe Rabbeinu was begging forgiveness for Klal Yisrael for the Chet HaEgel. And this Vayakhel, Rashi seems to be telling us that this Vayakhel was the first thing after Yom Kippur. Moshe Rabbeinu came down. What's the first thing that Moshe Rabbeinu did? Vayakhel. He got everybody together. So this must have some special significance. Imagine Moshe Rabbeinu went up after the Chet HaEgel, and he's now coming down, and he has the message that Hashem is going to forgive Klal Yisrael, and the first thing that he does is he gathers everything together. There must be really a very special significance in that fact. So Nesivos Shalom brings from the Noam Elimelech at the beginning of Parshas Devarim, who speaks about the fact that before we do a mitzvah, we say L'Shem Yichud. Especially us, people who daven in Nusach Sfard, many times we say L'Shem Yichud, which is a beautiful tefillah that we're saying before we do a mitzvah. But when we end the L'Shem Yichud, we say B'Shem Kol Yisrael. L'Shem Yichud, right? But we end it off that we're doing the mitzvah now, B'Shem Kol Yisrael. So the Noam Elimelech tells us in Parshas Devarim that the reason we say B'Shem Kol Yisrael is because if you think about it, it would really be difficult for any individual to come and be Mekayim a mitzvah. You know why? How are you being Mekayim a mitzvah with the same limbs that may have done Averis? You want to be Mekayim a mitzvah, pick a mitzvah of lulav, you say L'Shem Yichud, but maybe you did something wrong with your hand. Maybe, right, maybe the part of the body that you want to do a mitzvah with had also done an Aveira, so it would be very difficult to do a mitzvah. So we go ahead and we say, B'Shem Kol Yisrael, because there is no person, like the Pasuk in Koheles says, there is no person who's without Averis. Every person has Averis. So if every person has Averis, how do we go ahead and do a mitzvah? Same body, the same person, right? So we go ahead and we say B'Shem Kol Yisrael. It says the Naim Elimelech, in this world of Kol Yisrael, no Chet, no Avera could affect this entity known as Kol Yisrael, as Klal Yisrael. And he tells us, Nesivos Shalom tells us a very important point, that sin, Averos, are very, very individual. However, as we know, V'amech kulam tzadikim, and we could explain those words of V'amech kulam tzadikim, Nesivos Shalom, to something very beautiful. V'amech kulam, when we as a nation, when we're kulam, when we're together, then we're tzadikim. We're considered tzadikim. The sum of the parts, the sum of all of us together remains intact no matter what any individual in Klal Yisrael does. So when we want to do a mitzvah, we say L'Shem Yichud, B'Shem Kol Yisrael. And this is the Besura Toiva that Moshe Rabbeinu was now bringing down when he came back down on the mountain after Yom Kippur. Moshe Rabbeinu was now bringing Klal Yisrael this Besura Toiva. Moshe Rabbeinu was telling Klal Yisrael that Hashem let him know something very important, that the Chet HaEgel would not affect this entity known as Klal Yisrael. This entity that always stays perfect, that always stays whole. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu heard from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And Moshe Rabbeinu was telling Klal Yisrael that the Chet HaEgel would remain a Chet for each individual. The individual, and yes, they would get a kapara, but it would be considered a sin for each individual, not for Klal Yisrael. And therefore, Hashem still remains connected to Klal Yisrael. So now we could answer our question. Why was it so important that the first thing that Moshe Rabbeinu does when he came down on the mountain, the first thing that Moshe Rabbeinu does when he wants to tell Klal Yisrael this Besura Toiva, Moshe Rabbeinu, the first thing he did was Vayakhel, and specifically Vayakhel, to get everyone together now to teach Klal Yisrael this lesson, that Klal Yisrael together as one is an extremely potent and powerful weapon. When we have achdus, when we're together, there is so much more that we can do, and we're so much more powerful, and we stand for so much more. The Chet HaEgel would not, even the Chet HaEgel would not reach this place of Klal Yisrael. And that's the first thing that Moshe Rabbeinu did. Moshe Rabbeinu said, Vayakhel. Moshe Rabbeinu said, get everyone together. And that is why the Pasuk, when the Pasuk says, La'asoi soisam, we ask the question. The Pasuk says, Ela hadvarim, and then La'asoi soisam. These are the things you have to do. And the Torah does not go ahead and tell us any things that we have to do. The Torah only tells us things that we cannot do on Shabbos. It says in Nesivos Shalom a beautiful pshat. It says, you know what La'asoi soisam is going on? La'asoi soisam is going back on the beginning. Going back on Vayakhel. Not only is it good enough that sometimes Klal Yisrael should find themselves together as a group. La'asoi soisam means that every person has to be proactive. Every person has the job. There is a job for each person to make sure something that we need to do, that Klal Yisrael has achdus. That we never separate from somebody that looks a little different than we do, that acts a little different than I do. We have a job to make sure that Klal Yisrael, all the different types and all the different looks and all the different people, we have a job, la'asoi soisam, we have to take a proactive stance that there is achdus in Klal Yisrael. And we need to actively pursue that achdus, being together at one. Make sure that every person and every group is part of Klal Yisrael. And you know why? Because it also has special forgiving powers. When we ask mechila for something, when we don't act exactly as we should, Hashem looks at us and says, are you part of Klal Yisrael? Do you treat everybody as one? And when you do that, just like as in the Chet HaEgel, it has special forgiving powers for each person too. And Nesivos Shalom says something very, very, a little bit scary. Nesivos Shalom tells us, and he says that the Yetzer Hara only has shlita on a person who is separate from Klal Yisrael. If you're totally connected to Klal Yisrael, the Yetzer Hara doesn't have real shlita over a person in Ruchnius and in Gashmius. And the two mitzvahs that our parsha speaks about, Shabbos and the Mishkan, are mitzvahs that have to do with Klal Yisrael. Chazal tell us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Shabbos that Knesset Yisrael Yeh Ben Zukcha. Shabbos wanted to know, who is my partner? Sunday has Monday, Tuesday has Wednesday, Thursday has Friday. Shabbos is left out in the cold. Shabbos is all alone. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Shabbos, Knesset Yisrael Yeh Ben Zukcha. The Pashup Shad is that Klal Yisrael is going to be your partner. Shabbos. Says in Nesivos Shalom, we can translate it as, you know what's the partner of Shabbos? Knesset Yisrael, the gathering together of Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael keeping together. Klal Yisrael being ba'achdus, that is the connection to Shabbos. If a person wants to know how you have a connection to Shabbos, that is by being friendly with other people. That is by learning with other people, by talking to other people, by treating other people as your family. Knesset Yisrael, the in-gathering of Klal Yisrael, Yeh Ben Zukcha. That is the partner of Shabbos. And the same is really with the other mitzvah of this week's parsha, the mitzvah of the Mishkan. The Mishkan, we know, every Yid in Klal Yisrael, as we spoke about last week in Parshas Kisisa, every Yid in Klal Yisrael was a chelik of the Mishkan. The Mishkan was everyone's house because everyone gave the machzis hashekel for the Mishkan. And Sai Shabbos and Sai Mishkan represent Klal Yisrael getting together. And a very interesting point I just want to end off with. Nesivos Shalom says many times that you should know it's interesting. And you know that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to punish somebody, you know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyach, you know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does? He puts tainas in your mind on everybody. I don't like the rabbi, I don't like the community, I don't like my neighbors. You ever see sometimes people become bitter? Everything bothers them. This person bothers me, that neighbor, this cousin, this family member, that group, this faction in Klal Yisrael, Eretz Yisrael, this, that. People become all fatained. What are you becoming fatained for? What's bothering you? But Hashem, when Hashem wants to Hashem doesn't punish somebody when we're perfectly ba'achdus. When you love every part of Klal Yisrael, Hashem is telling you that's the way it's supposed to be. You have a special power of forgiveness. But if HaKadosh Baruch Hu feels that we have to address an issue with a person, all of a sudden you become all fatained. All of a sudden, you're not happy with anything. You're Mr. Sour. You're not, everything's bothering you. And that is the lesson of this week's parsha. Vayakhel means not just that we end up together, that we have a proactive, we have to work on this achdus, we have to work on shalom, we have to work that shalom, that machlokes is fire. It's not just something which is not so good. It's fire. And we have to make sure that we never get involved in such a thing. Knesset Yisrael Yeh Ben Zukcha. You want to be a part of Shabbos. You want to be a part of Mishkan. You want to be a part of Klal Yisrael. Then Vayakhel. You have to get everybody together. You have to be part of Klal Yisrael and treat every member of Klal Yisrael like your family.